Cool. Well, it sounds like everyone's ready to go. We will get started. So, what this isn't a functional knee health level. This is just the top 5 underrated knee exercises that I wanted to go through. I feel like there's so many exercises available on Instagram, on YouTube. I have everyone muted right now. Um, if you guys want to hop in, like, and I'm totally going to encourage it. Otherwise, I would have just made this YouTube video or gone on Instagram Live or something. I'm just going to have us like ask to unmute. Like, we'll do hand raising if that's something that you want to do. And we'll talk about how to kind of go through that and everything as we run through everything. But let's go ahead and get started. Top 5 underrated knee exercises. So to start, I do just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for hopping on. Funky Mob in general, it's functional mobility. Funky Mob is a community built around improving mobility, cultivating strength, and developing pain-free performance. So that's everything that we're about here. And if you haven't already, please head over to well, not right now, obviously, but after the call, sometime you're free, head over to the Classroom tab and you can check out my courses on knee pain. It's all free. It's all in the community. I think it's something that's really beneficial for you to understand the science and the reasoning behind the programming modalities, my philosophy on training, and it'll really help give you some more clarity as to when, why, and how to do an exercise. I think those courses are really beneficial. And this course might look a little scary, like the patellar tendinopathy level 3, but like the level 1 course, you could give it to a second grader, they'll get value out of it. Someone who's never worked out, they'll get value out of it. So it really is designed to have you start at a foundation and then work up from there. I would encourage you to do that. And I would also encourage you, if you have questions while you go through that coursework, please go ahead and ask questions. I want to make sure that you guys know everything. You're not confused on any of these topics, because I will feel like I failed you, and I hate failing things, guys. I'm not going to lie. In addition to that, we have our leaderboard. In our leaderboard right here, I covered up some names. I wasn't sure if people would want that, except Peter. I know Peter in real life. I love Peter, so Peter's fine with it. More interaction leads to more points on the leaderboard, which is really cool. So you can see you can stack up points as you keep going. The more you like posts, the more you comment. When you have referrals, the more you post, the more points you get on the leaderboard. And what I'm going to start doing is we're going to start doing prizes for the people that are on top of the leaderboard. I want to get new shoes out with Vivo. I already talked to my friends at Vivo, and we're ready to hook that up. Free custom plans, free coaching, free app access, cash prizes. Like, there's a ton of stuff that I want to do. And the more you contribute in the group, the more you are going to rise up the leaderboard and be in contention for all this cool stuff. And then on top of that, interaction just helps grow the page organically. I totally understand, like, people aren't able to afford coaching. They aren't able to do things like that. I completely get it, but it is totally free to go in, leave comments, leave likes, ask questions, just say hi to the people in the community. And who knows, you might make your best friend for life. You might meet someone who has a very similar journey to you, and you get a really cool support group, which I think is so important. I think a lot of people are just stuck in the pain improvement game and the rehab game, and they just feel very alone, and that can be a bummer. So that's just something that is really cool. I want to make sure that you guys are doing that, and it really does help the page the more you guys contribute, and it's free to do on top of that. So it really does help support the project. All right, I don't know why the down arrow isn't working, but let's get started. I was going to put Michael Buffer, but I'm a UFC guy. I got to put Bruce Buffer. If you guys don't mind, I would love to see some cameras being turned on. I'm good with whatever. I just think it's a little creepy. What's going on, Angelica? I think it's a little creepy if I'm just talking, you guys are staring at me. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not creepy. I think it's a little creepy, but I'm kidding. You're not creepy if you do that. You might be eating lunch. You might be in the middle of work. I get it. If you have questions, totally just raise your hand. There's the raise hand feature at the bottom, which is super easy. I'm on the phone. How do I turn on the camera? I think you can still do it on the camera button at the bottom left, if I remember correctly. And then on top of that, if you guys are able to move and try out some of these exercises, that's going to be super beneficial. That way, if I can see you and you're actually ready to go, you're ready to try these exercises, we'll kind of get some face-to-face, one-on-one time, make sure that your exercises are actually being done correctly to the best of your ability with perfect technique. And I think that's super important. Cool. So the first exercise I'm going to throw in is the tempo squat. So what is a tempo squat? With our traditional squat, we just focus on our down, up pattern, and we're going through that on a consistent basis. With a tempo squat, you're having an intentionally slow pattern as you go through the squat. And the reason this is beneficial, if you were to just, if you also, I'm wearing a polo and shorts. I do apologize. I apologize for that every time because it's a fashion faux pas, but you guys have to see my knees and see what they're doing. That's why I'm doing it, okay? But if you're just hitting your squat, right, you're just down, up, boom, like your muscles are contracting and your tendons are stiffening up, which is fine. And in people who don't deal with knee pain, that's awesome. But when people are presently dealing with knee pain, that type of quick stiffening can lead to pain. Now, what's nice about the tempo squat is it's going to allow those muscles and tendons to contract with less force. They don't have to stiffen up as hard, which is really beneficial because you can train that same squat pattern, which is so important, without necessarily overloading it with a ton of speed. And studies have shown that this slower concentric and slower eccentric have provided an analgesic effect. And that's just a fancy way of saying it provides temporary pain relief. So they have studies that show that even something like a wall sit or a pause squat, where you're hitting your squat, you're hanging out here for, let's say, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, it's going to help decrease pain in the short term. And I found that it also helps decrease pain in the long term. On top of that, the tempo squat is going to be a great tool to point out imbalances. It's going to be a great tool to point out asymmetries. Specifically, right? Like if someone has pain on one side that they really notice on the tempo squat, that's beneficial. If you start noticing things like the hips shift to one side, maybe the feet collapse on one side, that's very beneficial. You can also find out if someone is hip dominant or knee dominant. And the benefit of that is if someone is doing a tempo squat and you notice like every single time, the only way they can do it pain-free is like they have to get their butt back and have their chest face down and they're very hip dominant, that could be a problem. And that's something you want to be mindful of. And the last thing where it is beneficial is it helps you find out ranges that are causing pain. And we talked about this a little bit in the the level 3 course, right? The ranges that you're in matter a lot in terms of actually properly addressing what exactly you're dealing with, right? If you know that when you get to that bottom position and you're getting out of that bottom position, that's where you have a bunch of pain and pressure, that's going to be very different. That's going to be like generally quad tendinopathy or PFP. Meanwhile, if you have pain towards the top, it might be something like patellar tendonitis, patellar tendinopathy, PFP, something like that. So that's very beneficial. Tempo squats, I don't think we need to run through tempo squats together. I'd be more than happy to look at some squats at the end of the call, but tempo squats are basically slower. I think some of the other exercises are where things get a little bit more tricky and a little bit more challenging technique-wise. So I want to run through some of those. If anyone has a question on these, totally just let me know real quick. If not, I want to keep it going. Also, real quick, before we go, right here, you can see that this type of tempo, like lifting tempo, is really important for understanding what type of tempo you should be using. So oftentimes in my programs, you might see like this concentric is like, I've had people, and they always get mad at me when I make them do this because it hurts really badly. But you could have something like a 10-second concentric where you get to the bottom of your squat right here, and then you have to go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You guys know how to count to the top. And that is a really beneficial way of kind of loading the tendons in the knees without shocking them necessarily, okay? Cool. Let's move on to the second exercise, which is going to be the rotational RDL. So this one gets a little bit more important, or a little bit more tricky. So the rotational single leg RDL, it's a single leg hinge pattern. So our hinge patterns are where the hips are bending backwards. Anytime you need to pick something up, you are going to do a hip hinge. And this is going to improve internal rotation of the leg. So when we say that, I always have my skeletons with me. We can see that when we're doing this movement, we're doing things that allow the leg to turn in like this, which is really, really important for having our knee track correctly. So this is a really important exercise to improve mobility in that action. It also, more importantly, in addition to improving mobility there, which a lot of people need, I've seen people lacking hip internal rotation is a really common thing when it comes to knee pain. It also helps strengthen external rotation out of that loaded position, which is also really important. And I call it the athletic coil, because if you think about, and it can be the sport of your choice. I like boxing. I think it's a great example. When someone is throwing a hook, right? They're not just punching their arms like this, right? They're generating power through. What does that look like? The hips come in and then they come out. Just like that with our RDL, rotating RDL, the hips are going to come in like this and then out. So the hip mechanics right here in the single leg RDL are very similar to what you need to generate power with a hook, with an elbow in combat, in tennis, hockey, baseball, basketball, badminton, whatever. You're always going to be using this type of rotation, going in and out of that movement to make sure that you're generating power. And then on top of that, we're going to really be challenging tibial-femoral alignment. And what that means is right here we have the femur and the tibia, so just your thigh and your shins, right? Oftentimes when you have to create this rotation, sometimes the thigh can buckle in, it might rotate out. You might have these funky rotations going on where the kneecap is facing the wrong way relative to the shin. This exercise is really going to help improve that stability between those two bones and maintain integrity at the joint. Bone joint is very tough. Can we do the movement again? Igor, baby, we're gonna do it together right now. We're good. Let's. If anyone wants to hop up and try this, I'm totally down. I can see you guys doing it. So when we're going through the movement, I'm gonna kind of demonstrate it for you here. Okay. What are we looking for? You might not see my head. I'm 6'4". I don't fit in the frame. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm also 5'11", but I love that joke. So what we're doing is, first of all, we're gonna root that. Actually, yeah, just don't see my head. You can see feet, hips, knees. That's more important. Okay, you can see that I'm grabbing into the floor with my foot. So my big toe, pinky toe, and heel are really rooted into the ground. And I can feel those feet muscles firing into the ground. And that is super important to make sure you have stability. Charles Poliquin, fantastic strength coach, always said, you can't fire a cannon from a canoe, right? If you don't have a strong base at the feet, what's going on? Did you have a question, Haley? You have to unmute yourself.
The screen is super tiny. Can you go to the U for a minute and then back to your slide to show?
Yeah. Perfect. What about, give me one. What about now? Is it better now?
It's all of us now. Why is it all of us instead of just you? It's
Let
bigger.
In me, I think that will fix it.
Yeah, if we can see just you do that.
Is that perfect?
Pin the screen.
Are we good?
It's bigger. I put my glasses on. It's bigger, but yeah, the screen was just super tiny.
Okay, I think this should be better. I think we should be good now, right?
Yeah, because I want to see what you're doing.
Perfect. Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry about that. And then I'll just share the screen back for the PowerPoint, but this is definitely way better. Every time she talks, it switches to her. Yeah, so we're good now. I'm pinned in, so we should be good. So we're grabbing into the floor, big toe, pinky toe, heel is going to be super important. From here, we still want to maintain good RDL mechanics. So what am I doing? Once I'm pinned with my foot, and on Zoom, but with my foot is pinned to the floor, my knee is going to stay stacked over my ankle. That's really important. I'm pushing my butt back like this until my belly button hits the floor, okay? So this is the first part of the movement. You need to get this part down. So we're rooted in, butt goes back like we're closing a cabinet, so the belly button gets down to the leg. And then from here, we're gonna try to rotate so that that belly button goes towards the inside of the leg. So I'm rooting in, hips go back, belly button goes to the leg right here. This is my coil position. Ideally, I want my chest to face you guys. I want to get as much rotation as I can. And then as I drive out, I'm thinking about pushing the hips forward as I screw out of it. So I'm going to do that one more time, and then I'm going to take a look, see how you guys are doing it, and give you guys some feedback here. Root into the floor with your foot. Push your butt back so that while keeping the knee stacked over the ankle, rotate that belly button into the leg right here. And then we can coil. And it is totally fine to like hold on to something like this right here. Ideally, it would actually be better to hold on with the other side. So if my left leg is working, my left arm has the support. And then I drive up. Let me take a look. Let's see how we are moving. It is Perfect. Good. Give me one sec. Let me drag you guys up a little. Speaker view with him pinned works great. Thank you. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna kind of take a look one at a time. So let's get a couple more hinges going. So and if I can, I'm just gonna say names, that way it's easiest for everyone. Angelica, see how right now that back foot is a little too far. So I want your back foot to come a little bit closer. Yeah. Even a little bit more. And stand up a little straighter at the top position. And now push your butt back like you're closing a cabinet. So you're moving forward at the waist. I want you to think about pushing your hips back. Yeah. There you go. Beautiful. Perfect. And then drive up. And then rotate. Beautiful. Haley, we're looking good. Yep, we can get a little bit more rotation if possible. Igor, how we looking? There we go. Igor, really milk that rotation at the bottom. Make sure that is, we're holding that for a second longer. Susan, same thing. I think the back foot could be a little bit, or Sukran, sorry, my bad. I hate when people mess my name up. Foot could be a little bit closer, and that's going to be helpful. And then Alicia, you're lunging a little. So we want to be mindful of that. Real quick, guys, I'm still pinned, I'm assuming, right? Yes, I am. A really common tendency that I'm kind of seeing is as people are going through the movement, they're lunging, which we don't want to do. We want to make sure that as we go through, it's a hinge. My butt is going back, right? I don't want you to be here where the chest is up like this, and then you're rotating. It needs to be, I'm closing a cabinet behind me. If you think about it, right? I'm trying to knock over this foam roller with the glutes, and then it comes back up, right? That's ideally what we're going for. So that should be like the top priority as we go through the movement. And that should be something that you're looking for. Alicia, that's looking way better already. And yeah, Gloria, that's looking solid. Back foot is nice and close. That's what we want to see. Cool. Beautiful. These are looking good. And we can even touch on these in a little bit more detail in a second. I am going to, guys, give me 1 second, like literally. Sorry, I had to grab a towel. I'm sweating, guys. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't even, my bad. Okay. I drank too much coffee. Eventually, do you want to lift your back foot? Yeah, totally. So once again, the more advanced progression, I grabbed one, thank you. The more advanced progression is going to be something like this, where that back foot is hovering. You're going to root in, and then you're going to be able to generate your rotation without that back leg on the floor. And ideally, you would want to get that without any support, and you can just do that with weight. But we want to build up to that. We don't need to hop into it right away. Useful for, it depends when the ACL injury happened, because fresh out of surgery, I wouldn't recommend it. As you keep improving, yeah, because you want the knee to get very comfortable handling rotation and anti-rotation, which is super important. It's just a normal RD. Is it the same as a normal RDL? Yeah, single leg RDL with some coil is the biggest thing. Cool. Let's take a look at the next one, and we can take a look at some of these other ones if we're feeling uncomfortable towards the end. The side lunge is next. Now, the side lunge is a single leg squat pattern with internal rotation. So our hinge naturally creates internal rotation. You guys can see the screen, right? Just give me some thumbs up if you can. Yep, perfect. There's going to be a really solid way to improve mobility and hip internal rotation. So once again, that's that same pattern, right? Medial rotation off the femur at the pelvis, this right here. And it's going to challenge hip stability in a shortened position, which is going to improve your plant position. Now, what do I mean by the plant? When we need to stop on a dime, when you need to stop and change directions, right? And I'm going to be tiny here, but I will show you the exercise correctly in a second. When you're running and you need to stop like this, you're strengthening that exact same movement when you do a side lunge correctly. So this type of movement is really important. And you might be telling me, well, Rish, I don't play a sport. Why should I care about training like an athlete? How dare you? You should always be training like an athlete, first of all. Second, I live in Michigan and Illinois, I guess. I go back and forth. It gets snowy, it gets icy, people slip. And there's been plenty of times where I've almost slipped. And because I train this type of movement pattern and there's good anti-rotation there, I don't fall over and do any of that. So that's why it's very important. Now, when we go through this exercise, I think it's very important to maintain optimal alignment. And here's a really good example. This is my client, Alex. He's a D1 swimmer. His quads are bigger than my head. He's a great athlete, but you can see that when he started, you could see that the knee is actually outside of alignment with the toes, which is not great. And then his hip is inside his knee positioning, which is not great. When we do this exercise correctly, and we'll do it in a minute, now he does it where his hip, knee, and foot are all in line with each other, and the foot is facing forward. That's what we want to maintain. This optimal alignment where hip, knee, and foot are all in alignment, that's super, super important to make sure that you're going through everything correctly and you know that your movement pattern is actually loading the right thing. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna pin me. You guys can see me, right? Yeah, sorry. I got it down now. Okay, I got it down now. It took a little learning curve. I'm good. With our side lunge now, same thing. My head might not fit in the screen. It's okay. And you guys can get up and try this. We're going to start by keeping our feet forward, okay? And when I say feet forward, I don't mean your big toe, because your big toe, your big toe can face forward, but you can see this actually isn't truly forward because my feet are facing out to the side. I want you to think middle toes forward because now my foot is facing forward, right? As we start in that position where the foot is facing forward, now what we're going to do, same thing, we're rooting into that bottom position. We're going to try to push that hip out to the side so that we're maintaining hip, knee, and ankle alignment. See how they're in a straight line here? I'm going to do that one more time. Soft bend in the knee. I'm shifting my hips so that my hips, knees, and ankles are in line, and I drive up. Some really common tendencies before I take a look at what you guys are doing is to turn the foot out, and they're like, well, Coach Rish, I'm in great alignment. Look, my hip, knee, and ankle are in alignment. This is no different than just a regular squat, okay? We want a side-to-side movement, so that foot needs to face forward. And the other thing that I see is people stop short. So they might just get here. What's the problem here? My hip isn't in alignment. So I need to push those last couple inches to make sure that now I have the stacking, my quads are on fire, glute med, min, they're going to be working to get to that bottom position, and everything looks very clean and solid there. So we can get some side lunges going for a couple minutes. I want to see how everyone is moving, and this will give us a good idea. You might have to just move it down so we can see foot positioning just in general. I can kind of see, but if you can kind of move back so that the shoes, socks, whatever are in frame, that's really beneficial to make sure that everything is set. If you drop the other hip, it's... Yeah, if you... It depends on what you mean by drop the hip. It's supposed to move with you. Sukran, that's looking perfect. Beautiful. Gloria, your left foot is turned out to the side. You need to make sure that it's facing in. That's the only thing. Safwan, looking good, my man. I think the feet are pointed out a little bit. I think we could point them in, and that would be a bit better. There we go. Yep. Sumi, if you don't mind, get the feet a little bit wider too. Right now they're too close. Scott, I can just see the upper body. I think I need to see a little bit more what the lower body is doing. So you can just angle me down a little bit. Thank you, my man. A little bit more. Yeah. That should be good. Rebecca, I think the feet are facing out a little bit too much. Let's face those forward if you don't mind. Little bit more. So your big toe is facing forward. I want you to think middle toe is facing forward. There we go. And Helen, make sure your body isn't tilting, right? You should be facing forward the whole time. Good. There we go. Sumi, that's looking great. Angelica, that's looking great. Angelica, you could get a little bit more hip shift if you wanted. Hip can keep going. Hip is normally twisting in. Should I force it out more? Who was that again? Alicia. Alicia, where are you? Oh, there you go. Alicia, do that again. Alicia might be stuck. Oops. Cool. Yeah, Helen, that's looking a lot better. Gloria, that's looking better. There we go. Perfect. Shubhail, am I pronouncing that correctly? Yeah. That's looking good. Feet are facing forward. Everything is looking clean there. Yeah, these are looking pretty good for the most part. The biggest thing to remember is just going to be that foot facing forward alignment. That's just key. If we get that down, everything else looks correct. So that's looking solid. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. I want to get a couple more in. I think that's going to be really beneficial. Cool. Now, the floor is lava lunge, one of my favorites. I've talked about this exercise a couple of times. I think this is an amazing finisher. I think a lot of people at the end of their leg day, they kind of don't know what to do. And this is a really beneficial exercise to make sure that we're training the feet, ankles, and hips together. It's going to be a great way to improve ankle, foot, and tibial stability. And it's also going to train simultaneous knee and ankle bend, which is really important. When most of our calf exercises, they train our calves while the knees are in a set position. So maybe my knee is bent and it's not moving, or maybe my knee is straight and it's not moving. But this exercise allows you to keep the knee bent while you allow the calf to work and allow the foot to hover, which is really, really, really important. Because anytime we run, anytime we jump, those two joints are going to be moving together. They don't necessarily move one at a time. They move together as a unit. And that's really important for keeping everything moving well. In addition to that, I say it as a joke. It keeps you on your toes. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you want to run, when you want to jump, I talk about boxing and jujitsu a lot because those are the sports I'm into. You have to be on the balls of your feet. You want to be bouncy. You want to be fluid. What I say, like lazy feet make lazy athletes. And I always say train like an athlete. If you stay on your toes and you have the ability to be striking on the ball of your feet, you can stay there, you can stay fluid, you can stay bouncy, you can already see me bouncing around just talking about it. That's going to help ensure that you're moving quickly, you're going to have good stability, and we're maintaining integrity through the feet, through the ankles, through the knees. As we talked about earlier, right? Like the feet are the foundation. If you have strong feet that are connected to strong ankles that know how to work simultaneously with your knees, that's a really helpful tool when we're dealing with knee pain while running, knee pain when going down the stairs, knee pain when jumping, knee pain from getting up from a chair where maybe your heels aren't totally flat. Like these are all really beneficial movements. And for this type of exercise, and this one we can keep super quick because it's kind of easier, but in terms of technique, all we're gonna have to do is, and you guys should see how long you can hold this. I think a lot of you might get surprised. You're going to get to your split squat position and then drive that leg up. And you can see that the calf right here, I have a tiny calf. Don't make fun of my calves. They're contracting. You can see right here, the calf muscle contracts, right? So from here, I'm going to get my back knee off the floor. You can even make it harder by having that back leg be straight. This one's really nice for getting a simultaneous stretch in the hip flexor, but this one can be a little bit more challenging. So you can even drop down to something like this, where the only things that are touching my floor are the balls of my feet. And I'm going to take a look because if some of you started, I do not want to put you through the misery of holding that exercise longer than you have to. Perfect. There we go. There we go. Soft one looking good, my man, and doing it in socks. I love it. Not even slipping. We love to see it. Gloria looking great. Helen, I can't really see the bottom position of what the feet are doing. Sumi, we're looking good. Haley, we're looking good. Haley, I think we can get a little lower. There we go. Yeah. There we go. There we go. There we go. Scott, my man, looking good. I think the camera just pushed out of place, but you were looking good when you were doing it. Angelica looking great. Yeah, everyone's looking great with this one. I think really solid movement patterns here. And this one's not super duper complicated as it is. Cool. Let's touch base on the last one, which is my favorite one. Okay. And it's very underrated in my opinion. The calf and hamstring co-contraction. I have been talking about this exercise. I've been doing social media for I don't know how long, but I've talked about this forever and it has never gone viral. No one has ever liked it. And I don't know why, because it is, if I had to pick the most underrated exercise, not for knees, not for hips, in general, most underrated exercise, calf and hamstring co-contraction, fantastic exercise. So it's a glute bridge with the ball of the foot being your bias. So see how I'm doing this bridge right here and the balls of my feet are on the foam roller right here. We also drive the heels up. And the reason this is so beneficial and the reason I talk about it so much the calf and hamstring co-contraction has a promising effect on ACL protection. And there's a study right here. It's an in vivo study on rats. And if studies are your thing, that's going to be useful. But then I also have my trusty knee over here. What's cool is, and I'm going to, actually, I think you guys can see anyway. So I think I'm going to be okay here. What you can see is that, actually, I'm just going to stop sharing real quick. Sorry. The previous exercise has the quads and the calves working together, but the quads are on the front and the calves are on the back. What's really cool about this one is we get the calf muscles, which are here, and then the hamstring muscles that are here. And these are both on the back. And not only are they on the back, they actually cross each other. So the calves actually start on the thigh. They start on the epicondyles of the femur. That's like the nerdy way of saying it. They start on the thigh, and then they end on the shin. The hamstrings are gonna cross down, attach on well. So because the hamstrings insert onto the shins, onto the tibia and the fibula for the biceps femoris, nobody cares, that's fine. They cross each other, and you can literally just see that they cross into each other here. So that co-contraction is super important. And then on top of that, I'm not super sure if the screen is sharing right now. Give me one sec. There we go. Beauty. Perfect. On top of that, we're able to bias the hamstrings in a bridge pattern. We get to target the entire posterior chain without necessarily worrying about lower back fatigue. So for a lot of our posterior chain exercises for the lower body, when we think about like our deadlifts, our good mornings, even our single leg RDL, which isn't super taxing, there is a low back component, which sometimes if you have low back issues, that can be problematic. You're trying to strengthen, bulletproof, whatever, all these muscles on the back of your legs. And the only thing that hurts is your low back. Like that can be super frustrating. So this is a really awesome way to target that. And it's easy to progress with minimal equipment. You could literally use a foam roller. You could use a med ball would be fine. You could use an exercise ball, like whatever you want would be fine. And as we go through this exercise, and I'll keep this brief because I don't know how many of you have foam rollers, but I would encourage you to try it and post it in. Actually, yeah, that's what we'll do. I'll show you the exercise, post it in the Funky Mob community if you want some feedback on it. But what we're going to do is we're going to lie back here. We're going to keep the hips tucked. Back should be flat. We're going to bridge up those hips and then keep the heels high. So I'm bridging the hips and lifting the heels. Bridge the hips, lift the heels. Now we're set. We can make it harder by walking out. We can make it easier by coming in close. We can make it harder by going on a single leg. And it's quite a bit harder than it looks. So I'm going to encourage you guys to try it out, post it. I will give you the same feedback. If someone has a foam roller, Alicia, let's go. Let's go. She got the foam roller ready. She didn't come here to mess around. Sumi got it. Let's go. Everyone got foam roller. Everyone got foam rollers already. I love it. Scott, just make sure you have the ball of your foot, or like you have the middle part of your foot. Just keep it to like the ball of your foot. You can do it without a foam roller, Igor. Just do it on like the balls of your feet right here. Like you don't want to be on the curved part. You want to be like right here on like the ball of your foot. But that's looking clean. In general, we want our heels to be up, guys. Right now, most of us are on the midfoot, and we want the heels higher. That's going to be the most beneficial thing. Gloria, you're crushing it. I'm liking that heel positioning. Safwan, you're crushing it too, my man. I don't know how you're doing all of these in socks. I respect it. Scott, we were looking good. Scott, do that one more time. Yeah. There we go. And I think you could walk it out. My man. Make it a little bit harder. I saw you fighting for the single leg. Angelica, that was looking good. How many sets should we be doing? It's going to be very dependent on your programming. I think a good place to start is generally going to be like 2 sets for like 30 seconds, but it's going to be very dependent on your programming, how much hamstring work you're doing, how much calf work you're doing, all of that fun stuff. But cool. Before we get into some Q&A stuff, because I do want to just, if there are specific questions, I do want to answer them. I do just want to touch on super quick, and I loaded up a really cool transition for this one. Yeah, you guys like that one? The Funky Mob coaching team, you can start your 7-day free trial right now. It's in the welcome post. I'll put it in the chat as well. I think that'll be easy. Nikhil, if you're on, if you could put it on, that would be great. If you could put the link that I sent you, that would be sweet. In the app, you're going to be able to message me directly. Like you can see right here in the inbox, you'll have direct access to me, access to all my training programs. I have the full knee strengthening programs are in there already. from level 1 to level 3. There's at-home programs, there's at gyms, there's a tonal one, there's a Planet Fitness one. Everything is in there. You're going to have access to follow-along mobility routines as well that accompany the strength training protocols, which I think is really important. If you know what you're strength training, you should know what you're mobilizing as well. And having that mix is going to be super helpful, where the follow along mobility routines are actually complementing your strength training rather than just kind of doing whichever. In addition to that, you're also going to have access to the entire exercise library. You're going to have access to weekly Zoom calls with me. These Zoom calls like this, they might just be kind of like once a month, once every other month, something like that. But we're going to have weekly calls in the elite community and the coaching team where we're meeting more regularly. There'll be fewer people, so it'll be more one-on-one, and we can really focus on the exercises that are tricky. In addition to that, because I'm going to be tracking your progress in the app, I'm going to know exactly what you need to work on and how you need to do it. You're going to have nutrition resources, custom macros. I'll show you how to figure all that out. Literally everything you need to get back to pain-free performance is going to be in there. So just join the Funky Mob Elite team. It's in the school community if you want to join it. It might be in the chat right now. If it's not, I will plug it in super quick. And it's just like an awesome resource to make sure that you have literally everything you need and direct coaching from me to keep everything set. Yeah, Nikhil sent it. And the price will be going up later down the line. But the price you join at, I think it's like $19 a month right now, so it's super affordable, is the price that you'll keep forever. So if you're on the fence, I would definitely encourage you to just click the link, sign up, because I don't want you to join later when it's more expensive. Save your money, get more one-on-one time with me, access all the programs, access all the mobility routines, get back to pain-free performance. Okay? So I think that would be a really cool tool. Try it out, get the risk-free 7-day cancel anytime. It'll be great. And that'll be awesome. Cool. Let's move on to some Q&A. If anyone has any questions, of course, Sumi, that would be, let me unshare the screen because I think it might still be sharing, unless it's not. No, I don't think it is. We're good. Cool. If anyone has any questions right now, I'd be more than happy to go over them. I kind of want to keep some of the like specific stuff towards the end. Like if someone has a specific question about what they're dealing with, can you take a look at my side lunge? Alicia, we'll look at that right now. Like this type of thing would be perfect. If we want to look at a specific exercise that we covered, if we want to cover a topic that was in one of the courses or in anything we went through right now, I want to just cover those really quickly. Of course, Catherine, of course. That's going to be really beneficial. And then we can move on to like, I know there were a couple people that had specific questions that they kind of wanted to chat about and everything. So cool. Let's do that. Alicia, let's take a look at the side lunge. Where'd you go? There we go. Perfect. Yeah. So this is going to be a really good example where right now the feet are turned out, right? So see how the feet are facing out like this. Alicia, I'm going to have you turn the feet in a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And now try to hit the left side or the right, whichever one you like. I don't have a preference. Okay, cool. So what's going on here? See, there we go. See how that knee is buckling in? Push that knee out. I saw you trying to do it. Yeah, there we go. Keep pushing it out. Yep. And now we have that perfect stacking. See how the hip, knee, and ankle are all in line with each other? That's what we want to see. Now we have that perfect stacking. And the reason her knee was kind of buckling in like this is we weren't actually creating that rotation out. Instead of kind of going out into good alignment, we fell in. So that's going to recruit glute medius, glute minimus, TFL, make sure that everything is rotating correctly and getting into good alignment. Alicia, we're going to try this leg again. Your foot's turning out again. Let's turn it back in. You can get the feet a tad bit wider and then just make sure that hip is shifting over to the side. Yeah. To the right side. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. A little bit more big toe pressure, please. Yes. Yes. There we go. See, because now we were overshooting the knee. The knee was kind of buckling out into varus. Now, when we push that big toe down, we're getting good pressure. Knee is tracking forward. We're maintaining good alignment. And that's looking perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. Cool. Awesome job with that one, Alicia. If you want to check in again in like a week, you can send me over a side lunge real quick. I'd be more than happy to take a look at it. Question, while working up to, I hope that made sense, Alicia. If it didn't, let me know. I don't want to just kind of leave you hanging on that. Perfect. The question on working up to the tempo squat. Did you mention that a wall sit can have a similar analgesic effect? Similar question on the RDL. Can the wall be used as a support for the back foot? I love the wall support on the back foot. I'm a big fan of that one. So sorry, I'm still on the big screen, right? You guys can still see me or no? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. last time I got it from now. I got it from now. But and I'm gonna do it on my couch so you can actually see. Also, my couch has a couple wires on it. That's my charger. Don't worry. Okay. Something like this is. I'll switch side. Something like this is totally fine. Where right here you're getting good support and then you drive up. I see this exercise done a lot. Just be mindful of not having your knee too high as you go through that, because then you can kind of just stretch out the hip flexor and that can lead to a little bit of funkiness, no pun intended, during that movement pattern. And then while working up to the tempo squat, yeah, wall sits. So any isometric, you can find the isometric that works well for you. So in level 3, level 2, something, I talk about the leg extension isometric, where if this is your knee, you're just holding. Actually, I have a leg extension machine in my gym. I'm so silly. Something like this, where you are just on the leg extension. I hope it's not too heavy. All right, we'll see. I might tear my knee out. It is what it is. Something like this, where you're holding. This is totally fine. Okay. This is a fine way to target the quads. I would argue this is actually better than a wall sit if you can tolerate it, because you can stack the weight specifically that works best for you. So that's really beneficial. The reason I like the tempo squat more than a wall sit. Why do I not love the wall sit? I think it's fine for beginners. It's really common after ACL surgery to actually have the wall sit because it kind of inhibits some of the other muscles from firing, and you don't put a ton of torque on the knee. But the problem is you kind of just burn the quads from this 90-degree position, right? Our quads aren't really on a day-to-day basis holding us in this type of position for a long period of time. Most of our pain is going to come from something where I'm going down the stairs, I'm squatting to tie my shoe or something. And while the wall sit trains the muscle, it doesn't actually train the functional pattern. And that's where the problem comes in. So is a wall sit fine? I think it's great for level 1. I've had plenty of people where their knees are just so banged up that the wall sit is the only thing they can tolerate, because this is where the knee goes. It doesn't have to bend. It stays right here at the 90 degree. So that's fine. But I just think there are other isometrics that work a lot better. The leg extension isometric hold, floor is lava lunge, the tempo squat is fantastic. And I've gotten really awesome benefits from using that tempo squat specifically. Igor had a question, something about ACL. Any specific advice about a meniscus torn 2 months ago? Doctor said I can do physio and no surgery needed. Yeah, so the meniscus, for people who don't know, is, sorry, give me 1 sec. 2 people joined the waiting room. I just want to make sure that I get the, where, all right, they might not be able to get in. Oh, just kidding. Okay, we got it. Shouts out. Okay, cool. The meniscus is, if we take a look, this cushion right here. Okay, so in our knee, this is the front of the knee. You can kind of see that this is the meniscus right here. It's called the meniscus because if you guys remember from science class, the curved part at the top of the graduated cylinder, that's called the meniscus. Exact same shape here on the meniscus right here. The job of the meniscus is to cushion the femur from smashing into the tibia, right? That's why it's really important for landing. If I didn't have a meniscus, if I was created without menisci, when I do this, the femur just smashes down into the tibia. I collapse into a puddle, and no one has healthy knees after that. But since we have a meniscus, it helps make sure that we have that integrity. Now, when there's a tear in the meniscus, as you can guess, that leads to some instability, because now your brain is like, oh shit, I don't want to jump. I don't want to run because that thing is torn. My cushioning, my protection is torn. It's like if your seatbelt has a giant tear in it, you're probably going to drive a lot slower than you would if your seatbelt was fully intact, right? Same thing there. Now, in terms of surgical intervention, it kind of depends on what you want to get back to. And it's very important for you to discuss with your doctor, your PT, and make sure that you know exactly what you're trying to get back to. But the main reason people don't go for surgery, or the reason people wouldn't go to surgery, is if they think it can heal back on its own, and they think it can heal back to a point where they can get back to sport, right? So if you have someone who's in their 70s, 75, they tear their ACL, for example, they might not get the surgery because they're going to have some instability when they run and jump and cut, which is a specific movement in sport. But generally they're going to kind of tell them like, hey, if you're not going back to soccer at 75 years old, you'll be able to go through your life totally fine. You'll be able to work out, you'll be able to play with your kids, you'll be able to go up the stairs and even run without the surgery. When you want to get back to sport, that's where the surgery is actually, I think, a useful thing, especially if it's a full tear. I don't know if yours was a partial tear. You want to make sure that you have that integrity at the knee joint, because whenever, like we talked about, right, this rotating, all this rotational stuff here, and you can see that we have the ACL, PCL back here. When these rotate, you can see how these get scrunched on, right? Every time my femur and tibia rotate. That's why when those are torn, there's a lot of instability, and that's why people aren't comfortable with these rotational patterns. So it is very dependent, Igor. I can never really give you an exact answer whether you should or shouldn't get surgery, especially over Zoom. I'd want to play with your leg. That sounded weird. But yeah, move your leg around a little bit. See the directions where you're moving, see how you're stable, check your gait, see what you want to get back to, and then talk to your doctor and PT and look at that integrity. And those are the questions you should be asking. I think a lot of the times in the medical industry, it really just turns into, oh, you have a tear? Surgery. Cool. Oh, you go to the PT. Oh, you have a tear? We'll just fix it. We don't need surgery ever. Like, you have these two opposite ends of the spectrum, and that's super annoying when what has to happen, and you really have to be your own advocate in this type of space. You want to ask the right questions. You want to make sure that you have clarity as to why they are telling you to go this way or this way, and it is very structured. Because I've had plenty of people where the PT tells them like, we'll just get it back with rehab, and I'm like, okay, maybe, but you want to go back to basketball and you're 18 and it's summer vacation. If you had to do an ACL rehab for 3 months, now would be the perfect time to do it. Why do you want to wait? That type of thing is something that you should be mindful of as well. So I hope that was beneficial. And if that wasn't helpful, just let me know. I want to make sure we get good. Sorry, I got cut off. Did we answer the tempo squat question? Yeah. Tempo squats are great. Wall sits are great. Any isometric is going to help with the analgesia. My doctor said I do not need the surgery after MRI and tests. Cool. Yeah, then you might just have a partial tear. And depending on what you're trying to get back to it, if you're just trying to get back to working out, squatting and deadlift. Squatting puts very little load on all the connective tissue in here: ACL, PCL, MCL, LCL, and meniscus. So squatting is not a super big deal. Deadlifting is not. It's when running, jumping, changing directions, sport, that's when it's an issue. I mean, is it a 4-beat going down? So it's super dependent. With tempo squats, you can go like 4 seconds down, 5 seconds up. There's all sorts of different tempos that do work, but generally a slow upward movement, 3 to 5 seconds at least, is beneficial. Also, is there a safer way to prep me for running a long and steep downhill in the half Mary since my knee aching after I run down a long hill? Yeah, so when you're running downhill, it's very similar to going downstairs. And shouts out to the Sorry, give me 1 second. I have to grab a toy. Shout out to the tib bar guy. Thank you, tib bar guy, who gave this to me very nicely. I appreciate it. When you're going down the stairs or you're running downhill, you're basically running into this pattern, right? Where you're trying to decelerate. You're trying to make sure that you aren't falling over, really. Like if you were to not be here and your chest were, something has to lead the way, right? It's either your knee is going to lead the way or your chest is going to lead the way. If your chest leads the way, you're going to fall over. That was me when I was 7 years old on the family trip to the Sleeping Bear Dunes in Traverse City. I fell over while going downhill because my chest was falling forward. But if your knees go forward like this, that's going to be very beneficial. So we want to get strong in this position. Now, you can check out the level 3 functional knees course. I talk about why I don't love the step down. I'm not a big fan of this exercise in general, but where it can be really beneficial to load that quad would be something like a heel elevated, where the ball of your foot is still on the ground. I'm going to rotate down just a tad bit so you can see. Ball of the foot is still on the ground, and I'm driving that knee past the toe. So even something like this, like a split squat hold right here, would be really beneficial for you to get the quad nice and strong and make sure that you can go downstairs and keep it pain-free. So you want to get strong in that like knees over toes position. I think that's like a fine way to call it. And that's going to be really, really beneficial. And then that's super helpful. I'll do one more question, and then if there's anything else, I'd be more than happy to answer it in the Funky Mob community, or message me in the app, message me in the next Zoom call, whatever it takes. So I was about to do step ups on my slant board. I'm not a big fan. I don't think they're very difficult to scale, very difficult to know how deep you need to go. And that can be something that's tough. Why hip shift towards right is seen after the ACL surgery? Great question. So when I love ACLs, it's my favorite. When a common thing with similar to the side lunge posture, yes. A common thing after ACL surgery is something called arthrogenic inhibition. So what happens is the quad muscle turns off. And this makes sense, right? You just had a super traumatic surgery on the knee. I don't know why I'm using an elbow when I have a full ass knee right here. You had a traumatic surgery on this knee. So the muscles that bend and extend the knee, your brain is like, dude, you just had a traumatic incident happen to your knee. I don't want you to move that knee. I want it to be immobile. So I'm going to literally turn the quad and hamstring off. After an ACL surgery, you'll see like the quad and hamstring, they don't fire. Very heartbreaking process. And then once they get back, it's very nice and you shed a tear when it happens. But those muscles turn off, the quads turn off specifically because they don't want accidental extension to happen. So because that's happening, what other lower body muscles are going to have to fire a lot? Well, ideally, it would be the biggest muscle in the body, the glute, right? So what oftentimes happens is when people are squatting, when they're lunging, whatever. I think a lunge is a great example. Let's say my right knee is my bad knee and my left knee is my good knee. Okay. The left knee might be very comfortable getting into this position with a lot of knee bend, very quaddy. Like this is going to be very comfortable for me to do because my quad is functioning great. And then on my bad knee, my right knee, well, I'm going to be scared to bend the knee. No, that hurts and my muscle was turned off. So instead of having that knee travel over, I'm going to keep the knee over the ankle and I'm going to do this for my lunge right here, right here. And this, if you palpate your glutes, fancy way of saying grab your ass, you will feel these muscles firing as you go through compared to something like this, where now you'll feel the quads working quite a bit more. So what you need to do is really make sure that for lunges, my non-surgical leg is tighter. Well, it could be, I don't know, you could have done a really good job with the rehab and got it even stronger. But what can happen is the hips want to take over, the glutes want to take over because they're so much stronger relative to the quad, which may or may not be at its full function. So what do? We want to restore quad function, and leg extensions are going to be really beneficial for that because you can bias the quad and you can bias your range of motion. I'm going to show you one super quick thing on the leg extension machine, and I'm going to do single leg extension. So I should definitely change the weight because squatting later, I don't want to hurt myself before that. But what can be really beneficial is with your leg extension, you might only go up to here, which is fine. And then maybe you hang out here, see if this is tolerable. You keep going until you can fully extend pain-free, and then you bring it back. And this is a really helpful tool that helps your quads get nice and stronger in isolation. And most people aren't going to feel their glutes firing in a leg extension. It does happen after surgery. It's the only time I've ever seen it. And in that type of scenario, it might help to lean back a little bit like this, or sometimes it might even help to lean forward a little like this. It's kind of person dependent. You can try both, but those are both really, really beneficial tools that you can use to make sure that everything is moving well. But yeah, I hope that answers everything. Guys, if you have any other questions, please post them in the Funky Mob community. It always helps to chat in there. And then, like I said, if you want direct access to me, direct access to the programming, like direct text-based, like you will text me directly if you join the Funky Mob coaching team, go ahead and do that. That way we can take care of all your questions specifically, make sure you have a good program going forward so you know exactly what you need to do. Follow along mobility, nutrition, all that fun stuff. And we'll have some fun along the way. I think that matters a lot too, right? I think so. Cool. Go ahead, like, comment something in the Funky Mob group. I think that would be awesome. I will see a lot of you on the coaching team. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I will talk to you soon. If you have any other questions, let me know. Bye. I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for hopping on. I very much appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon.